This week's Parsha is Parsha Vayechi. It is the last Parsha in Sefer Bereshis. And it discusses the last few years of Yaakov Avinu's life once he descended to Mitzrayim. And we have a number of very famous blessings in this week's Parsha. We have the blessing that was given to Ephraim and Manasseh, Yaakov's grandchildren, which has become in many households, that's the staple blessing on Friday night, the Birchas Abanim, the blessing we give our children. And we also have the blessings that he gave before he passed away to his children, to the Shvatim, to the tribes. And when you go through the blessings, you see that we need to create a different definition for ourselves of what a blessing is. Because some of the blessings are very stern rebukes. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, they're not feel-good blessings. He takes them to task about things that they had done in the past. And the one insight which is clear is that the idea of a blessing is not just talking about, how wonderful things should happen for somebody, but it's getting a person to understand what his propensities are, understand, how can he actualize the potential that he has, and defining perhaps for him things that he has faltered in the past and how to correct those areas in order that he should be able to develop himself and become who he is. So I'd like to focus specifically here on the blessing of Yehuda. Pasuk says, Yehuda, Ata, Yoducha Achecha. Okay. So what exactly this means, all right? So there's different commentaries. Rashi learns as follows, that when Yehuda saw what happened to Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, they got a mapola, he started backing away. Lefisho chiach es harishonim bekinturim, that he was it was rebuke, and he spoke harshly to them. Hischil Yehuda lasug lacharav. He's not. Maybe that's a bracha that I'm going to skip. He wasn't so excited about getting it. So. In the parentheses, the Reish Rabbi was afraid that he's going to catch it for the story of Tamar, right? Shelo yochichenu al ma'aseh Tamar, the story of Tamar. V'karo Yaakov b'divrei ritzui, and Yaakov called out to him in an appeasing manner to show, Yehuda lo ata kamosam. You're not like them. You've risen above them. Yehuda Ata. That's how Rashi's learning. What's the Ata? Otcha, not Ata. What's the Ata? Yehuda Ata. No, Yehuda. You are Yehuda. You are different than the other ones. And then, Yoducha Achecha. Your brothers will acknowledge you. Your brothers will coronate you, however we're going to see what you're... But that's how Rashi's learning. Rashi's actually learning that the Yehuda Atah is separate. Yehuda Atah is addressing the fact that Yehuda was nervous, and he was telling him, no, you don't have to be worried. You are different than the other ones, and your brothers will acknowledge you. So I'm going to share with you just two primary interpretations of maybe how to understand this blessing of Yehuda Ata Yoducha Checha that I think will have tremendous impact in terms of certain qualities that we would like to develop even in our own children. There is a discussion amongst the historians, why is it there are 12 tribes of Jacob, 12 tribes, 12 children, and yet the generic name for Bnei Yisrael, for Klal Yisrael, is named after Yehuda. In almost every language, Yehudim, what do I mean we're Yehudim? We're from Yehuda. Jew, the word Jew comes from Judah. You know, in every language, even it was derogatory, like the Polish, it's Żyd. That comes from Yehuda, but almost every single language, how you translate how Jews are referred to, comes from the tribe of Yehuda. So the historians deal with that. Why? At what point in time did we stop being Bnei Yisrael and we start being called Yehudim, and why Dafka after the tribe of Yehuda? So if you look up wiki answers, right, if you look up, but this is the standard answer for the historians is as follows. We know that Bnei Yisrael who had one king, starting from the times of Shmuel. So you had Shaul HaMelech, right? You had one king. You had David, Shlomo. But when Shlomo passed away, he left the Malchus to his young son, Rechavam ben Shlomo. And the Talmud actually castigates Rechavam. It says that he had his father's counselors who were elderly, and he had his own counselors who were young, his friends that counseled him. And he felt that, that the old counselors were out of touch with society. Let's get the new people to counsel him. The new people that he should counsel him were the younger counselors. They should direct him as to what to do. And his contemporaries, the young counselors, told him, you need to take charge. You need to show them you mean business. Otherwise, they're not going to respect you. You're a young king. And you need to tax them. You need to show them that there's not going to be, because you're young and because you're new, they're not going to be able to take advantage of you. And the older counselors said, no, you know what? Ease into it. You don't come in with a full throttle and right away raise taxes. That's not the right way to do. And the Talmud makes a poignant statement. It says that binyan yaladim is stira, that when young people try to build, it actually is destructive, and that when the older people, when that which they destroy is actually building. It makes a comment because so he didn't listen. He went with the younger council, and it created a civil war. And the Malchus got torn apart. So what ended up happening was you have Yehuda with his territory and adjoining him actually shared Yerushalayim. So it was Malchus Yehuda, it was Yehuda and Binyamin. And the other 10 tribes, known as the 10, they became Malchus Yisrael. So you got Malchus Yehuda and Malchus Yisrael. I believe it's Rabbi Nevin Sal, I believe it was him. I saw somewhere one of the, I think it was him. He said a beautiful idea that when Yehuda said, that I'm going to be an Arev. What is an Arev? I am going to be the surety. I'm going to take responsibility for Binyamin. When they went down, he tied himself to Binyamin. And since he tied himself to Binyamin, even in the territories, even when the Malchus split, Binyamin is always attached to Yehuda. It's like part of the Manasseh and Ephraim, what happens to the fathers. So Yehuda and Binyamin always like the package deal. There was that's because he took the arvus, he took him responsibility for Binyamin. Fine. And then you have the other 10 tribes, and they had a charismatic leader from the tribe of Ephraim. Right? Ephraim is one of the children of Yosef, right? Which is, by the way, the split that the two monarchs, which happens in history, and it's going to go all the way down to Mashiach, that's the Yehuda Ephraim, the Yehuda Yosef confrontation that we had in last week's Parsha. Right, that there's confrontation between who the king is and how they work together. Is it symbiotic? Are they against one another? But that goes down to that civil war that you have the children of Ephraim as the son of Yehuda. So this Rechavam ben Nevat, his name was Rechavam ben Nevat. He was one of the greatest Talmidei Chacham of his generation. Brilliant Talmid Chacham. Yeravam ben Nevat. Yeah, Yeravam ben Nevat. There's Rechavam ben Shlomo and Yeravam ben Nevat. So Yeravam ben Nevat, he was a great Talmid Chacham, but he went off, and he introduced golden calves back into Judah. He saw that the seat of power of the Malchus of Yehuda was Yerushalayim, and he had to undermine the service in Yerushalayim. He put 12 calves around the territory. It's unbelievable. He was like the leading Gadol. He was the Gadol Adar, actually, and he just went off with what ego can do. There's one of the Talmud talks about it, and he went off and he got them all into Avodah Zarah. You don't have to go to Yerushalayim anymore. You can serve from Beersheba to Dan. They had fine, and so he went and the Malchus Yehuda had its own problems with its own kings. I mean, you had kings in there also that, you had Izabel and, they had their own problems. But Malchus Yisrael was a lot worse in the Avodah Zarah, and they ended up getting exiled a few centuries before Yehuda. Right? That's the lost tribes, the 10 tribes that got exiled. Right? They ended up getting exiled. So, really, there was a question whether some of them came back, didn't come back, but the Malchus Yehuda Yisrael got wiped out. So really all that was left, the historians explain, was Malchus Yehuda. So from that point and on, we start being referred to, and it's Bayis Rishon, that's the first Beis HaMikdash, that's already we start being called Yehudim, as we find that after the Churban Bayis Rishon, we find the first allusion in Psukim. Mordechai is known as Mordechai HaYehudi, even though Mordechai did not come from Yehuda. Where was he from? Binyamin. So therefore, as you see already, so it ties in because after the 10 tribes were exiled, basically everybody was from the territory of Malchus Yehuda, and they're the ones who went into Golus, and they're the ones who came back. And that's why we refer to historically as Yehudim. That's the explanation that the historians give. However, we don't view Torah as a history book, and it's interesting to note that Chazal have a different reason why we are called Yehudim and the source of where we are called Yehudim. The Das Zakenim on the commentaries, one of the commentaries that are brought down in the Mikras Gedolos, is one of the Balei HaTosfos. You're talking about in 12th and 14th century. Mm-hmm. Now actually his source comes from one of the Targumim. There's Aramaic translations on the Torah. We have the well-known one on Chumash is Targum Onkelos. Right? Onkelos Ager. That's an Aramaic translation. It's not just a translation, but there's also interpretation that's given into it. We have an obligation to do every week the Parsha, Shnai Mikra Echad Targum. It's twice the Psukim, and one with a translation. The Targum is Onkelos, so they expand it to Rashi, or to do it, and even in an art scroll, according to somebody, just so that you can understand. It used to be, that was the Targum. When they used to lane, you go to the Temani Shul here in town, the way they lane is, they lane a few psukim, and then they say the Targum. It takes twice as long to get through laning. But in most places, we don't do the Targum out loud that way anyway, but the Targum has insight. So in one of the Targum, you have Targum Unculus, you have Targum Yonatan ben Oziel, and there's Targum Yerushalmi. So in one of the Targumim, this is actually one of the sources from the Dazakanim. He says like this. Let me tell you what he says. Yehuda ata yoducha. Yehuda, you will be acknowledged. Now he doesn't learn like Rashi that it's not linked. Rashi says Yehuda ata, right? Yoducha checha etc. He learns no, it goes together. Yoducha lioscha melech. They will acknowledge you as their king. So that's the blessing, meaning that the Jews, the rest of your brethren will acknowledge you as the ultimate king, all the way back down to Melech HaMashiach, who's going to come from Shevet Yehuda, David HaMelech. That's the Mashiach ben David. By the way, there's two Mashiachs, Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. Not for now, but that's also the two that split. Now, Kamosha Matzina b'David. V'chein Yehuda ola b'gematria shloshim. He says, interesting, the words Yehuda come out in the gematria to be number 30. You calculate the numeric value of Yehuda. And he says, Kaminyan, that's exactly the amount, the number, Me'alos ha'malchus, Malos shabemalchus, b'meseches avos. There's 30 qualities that kings have. And also, they bring down that there are actually 30 kings of Nesiim in history, which is the gematria of you. Now, davar acher, this is what we're interested in. Yoducha achecha, why will you be acknowledged by your brothers? What does that mean? You'll be acknowledged. Lefisha kol Yisrael nikraim Yehudim al shemecha. That the blessing that Yaakov gave Yehuda was Yoducha achecha, you will be acknowledged. You will be acknowledged by your brothers. How will you be? They all are going to define themselves. The name, generic name for Klal Yisrael is going to Ata Yoducha Achech. They'll acknowledge that they'll all be called Yehudim. It's not just some historical fact, but it's part of the blessing of Yehuda. Shemimcha Yetzei Melech HaMashiach Shigal Yisrael B'meher B'yameinu. V'od, and more than that, also that Mashiach is going to come from you. That Yoducha Achech, you'll be acknowledged. Mashiach is coming from you as well. But you see over here in the Dazakanim, right, that the idea of Jews being called Yehuda is not just a historical event, but it's in the essence of the blessing of Yehuda is that we are called by his name. So the first Gera Rebbe, known the Chidusha Harim, he wants to know why. What quality, what is unique about Yehuda that we're all called, why aren't we called Revenis or Shimonis? Why are we called Yehudim? What is it about Yehuda that we are called by his name? So I want to give you two interpretations and see perhaps there is even a link between them. If you look in the Targum Unculus that we have, the Aramaic translation, that is on this pasuk, Yehuda, says Yehuda, Ata Udesa. Yehuda, your name Yehuda, Yehuda At, your name, your essence is Hodah. What does Hodah means? To admit. You admitted. You took responsibility. You admitted. Velo behetesa, and you were not embarrassed. And therefore, b'cha yodin achecha, and therefore your brothers will acknowledge you. So Targum Unculus is learning that his admission, he's willing to take responsibility for something that he did, is what is unique about Yehuda. And because of that, we are all willing to call ourselves by that name. So that, I think, there's a tremendous amount in that. Saying is that it's defining us as Jews. What defines us as Jews is we're willing to take responsibility. Yehuda At, you are the essence of Hoda'ah, of admission. You take responsibility. Therefore, therefore we are all willing to call Jews. Now, let's understand that a little, because I think it's a facet that, especially today, we live in a generation, nobody's willing to take responsibility. Anything that goes wrong today, right? Anything, it's never our fault. Right? It's always somebody else. Somebody else. It's the whole millennial concept over here, that that there's no sense of responsibility. But you find today, anybody that's in business or even in school, to find people that are willing to take responsibility. Now, responsibility just not taking blame. We're not talking about just looking for blame. But it means that you accept on yourself to do something and to follow it through. That's an unbelievable quality to be able to have. It's not a simple quality to have. And we see that's Yehuda. We see that it starts with he faltered. He didn't take full responsibility of what should have happened by Mechiras Yosef. He's held accountable. And the brothers actually took him down from his position of leader. You were the leader. You should have guided us correctly. That's what Rashi brings down. And then he went down, he left, and he had the story with Tamar. There he stepped up. He took responsibility. And then we see he followed up. He also takes responsibility to bring Binyamin back. So there's a concept of the concept of leadership is an idea of taking responsibility. That's the idea of taking that you are willing to take responsibility. Atat odesa. So that's a very important quality, and saying that's according to the Targum Onkelos, that is what is the quality, the essence of what's coming out here. If we're going to go with the Das HaKanim, that is why we are willing to call ourselves by him, because we're saying that the essence of a Jew is we take responsibility. So that's one understanding, and that would be based on the Targum. The Chidush HaRim says a different answer to explain why we're all willing to call ourselves by Yehuda. Chidush HaRim says like this. It says, let's go back to where the name Yehuda was formed. Right? Who gave Yehuda the name Yehuda? Leah. Right? So the pasuk says over there that Leah had 3 children. She had Reuven, she had Shimon, she had Levi, and then she has a 4th son. She says, Hapam Odes Hashem. This time I'm going to thank Hashem. So Rashi's bothered by it. You don't have to thank Hashem for the first 3 children you had. What do you mean, Apam? This time I'm going to thank Hashem. Now I'm going to thank Hashem. So Rashi says as follows. Rashi says that all of the Imos had Ruach HaKodesh. They all understood certain future events. And Leah made a simple calculation. Yaakov Avinu has 4 wives. You have 4 wives, you do the math, they know they're going to have 12 tribes. It should come out that each wife should end up with 3 children. So she had her Reuven, she had her Shimon, she had her Levi. Now she has Yehuda. She says, Apam Odes Hashem. Says Rashi, why? Shenatalti Yoser Michelki. I have received more than what my portion should be. So the name Yehuda was given because the person is giving thanks that he received more than he should have. That's where it comes from. Says the Chidush HaRim, the Ger Rebbe, he says an unbelievable word. He says that's what the essence of a Jew needs to be. Is that we go through life recognizing is that everything we have is Natalti Yoser Michelki. I've received more than I deserve. That is what makes the name Jew, Yehuda, that is what he says Nadaza Kanim, that we're all, Yehuda Ata Yoducha, your name Yehuda is why we are all acknowledging ourselves, because the essence of what your name represents is the message that we have to give acknowledgement. We have to thank Hashem from the word Todah. Hodah is admission. Todah also means giving thanks. We'll talk about if there's a connection between them. But we give thanks to Hashem that we have more than we deserve. That is the definition of what a Jew needs to do. A Jew has to understand there's a concept of being grateful, gratitude, being grateful to what we have. And the way to be grateful is to recognize it's more than I deserve. That, says the Chidush HaRim, is why we are called all by that name. So we have here, very interesting, you have the Onkelos' understanding is because he was willing to take responsibility. And you have the Chidush HaRim's understanding of what Pshat Nadav Zakenim is because we're giving thanks and we're grateful for having more than we deserve. And I think on some level they're very much connected. Right. Let's talk about it in our own children. Right. We want to create children to take responsibility for things. We want children to take responsibility. We also want children that are going to be grateful. If there is a sense of entitlement, because entitlement means that whatever I have, I deserve. I even deserve more than I have. So obviously you cannot be grateful. How can you be grateful if what you feel you have, you actually should even have more? So you can't be grateful for what you have. Right? But I think on some level as well is that if someone is entitled, it's very much egocentric focus. Everything's focused inward, not outward, not recognizing that which is outside of me. You also can't take responsibility for anything. A person can only take responsibility for something if he sees that he needs to be beholden to something. Right? You have somebody who's working for a business, he feels, or working in a school, he feels there's a greater good that has to be accomplished. I have to make sure that it gets taken care of. I have to take responsibility for that. He has to feel that he is beholden to something greater than he is. If you don't feel that, then you can't take responsibility. And they go, oh, fine, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. So I think there is a connection between the two. But either way, both of those aspects, I think today, especially today, but our job as parents are specifically in terms of developing healthy and happy children. Because that also ties to happiness. If you can't be grateful for something, you can't be happy. Right? The idea, you think like, everything I have, I deserve more than I have. I have more than I deserve. That makes a person a very happy person, because it means everything you get then, you're happy that you have it. If you think you're entitled to everything that you have, then how can you be happy about what you have? You can't be happy with what you have if you feel you should have had it anyway. You only can be happy if you're happy because you feel that God has given you more than you deserve. Then you can be a happy person. So it's such a critical thing to develop that sense of gratitude within our children. So I think it's two. One is there's a greater good, there's a greater, whatever it be, you're working towards, you're working to accomplish, you're part of it. It's not all you, in order to feel a sense of responsibility. But if there is something outside of ourselves, it also allows us to recognize that we're not the center. Right? The way we talked about before, there's two ways to view the world. It could be an egocentric world, where I am the center and everything is around to serve me, or what's known as a theocentric world. It's like God is in the middle and we're all there to serve him. Right? So how do we look at ourselves? If everything is here to serve me, I can't feel happiness because I can't feel that anything that I have I am grateful for, because I'm not feeling that anything is done special for me, because I should have it anyway. In fact, I'm focusing on what I don't have Because what I don't have, I should have. If I should have and I don't have it, then it makes me upset, not happy. If everything I have is more than I deserve, then everything I get I feel happy about. That comes through teaching gratitude, being grateful for everything that we have. It's very important, and there are practical things that we can do. I know in our house, my wife has instituted every Friday night. You have to go around the table, and everyone has to say something nice that somebody in the family did for them that week. Start thinking about what has somebody done nice for you that week. And verbalize it. Thank the person for what they did for you that week. I have to thank somebody. Then I have to start thinking during the week, what are people doing for me that I know that Friday night they're going to ask me, what has somebody done for you? Now you have an idea of what. There's ways to develop that. Diminish egocentricity. Create tasks in the home. We have maids. We have should be somebody every Shabbos is responsible for setting the table, throwing out the garbage, things that even though somebody else could do, creating jobs within the home that you should do. Kids should realize that's not all about me. I serve a greater good. I have responsibilities. So they are connected. The point is that, and then we're going to finish with this, is that the idea of Yehuda ata yoducha achecha, that Shekol Yisrael Nikra Macharecha, it's not a historical event. It's about the essence of what a Jew is. One of 2 points, and probably both points connected. One is that we take responsibility and we see things through, and we acknowledge when it's not going the way it should have gone, that we've done something that maybe to correct this. But either way, the idea of responsibility is either way is taking responsibility when something doesn't go right and making sure that it gets carried through. Both are taking responsibility. And the second piece on the Chidush Sharim is that Yehuda's name shows that Natalti Yos Michelki, that everything that God has given me, I need to be grateful for because it's Yos Michelki. I've got more than I deserve, and therefore, and that honestly what creates a sense of happiness within a person because he feels happy with everything that he has.